Hello, Steve White, Trickway89 for Steve White's89. I didn't realize this happened. I just saw this. I did a video on Star Wars. I was just thinking about the whole situation with Star Wars Theory and Pablo Hidalgo and all that. And then, just as I was packing everything up again, because I wasn't going to do any videos today, I saw that last night's episode of Star Trek Discovery actually was the 800th episode. And I'm like, I didn't know that was coming. I mean, I knew it was coming a while ago when I realised, oh, they're going to get near to 800 soon. But we now technically have 800 episodes of Star Trek. Now, I don't tend to recognise Discovery as Star Trek. I don't refer to it as STD because I think that's just wrong. But I do only refer to it as Discovery. I only refer to it as Star Trek Discovery when I need like for titles for YouTube videos, because otherwise they don't come up in the searches. So that's the only reason why I call it Star Trek Discovery in my titles and that, because otherwise it doesn't come up when people look for it. I don't consider it Star Trek, but at times like this, when it serves me, and it means Star Trek has 800 episodes, I will let that slide, because it's a great thing. Star Trek, 800 episodes, 54 years, 10 TV series. I guess you have to count Picard as well, technically, and Lower Decks as well, technically. As they are licensed Star Trek TV shows, and the 13 movies and everything, it's great on that level. But then you have to look at the state of Star Trek and the state that it's in, and that's not great. So I sort of wanted to ponder that a little bit. So while I do want to celebrate the fact that it is 800 episodes, that Star Trek is still on some level commercially, socially relevant, viable, because it does have this show which does apparently get enough audience members that they can justify keeping it on the air, even though it isn't as popular as the older shows, which we have proven through numbers and merchandising and all the other things that show that it's not as popular. It doesn't have the resonance that the original did. It is still existing, but it's not Star Trek as it was, and that's sort of the issue. And a lot of people get dismissed as haters by fans and Drekkies, which is what Star Trek fans call Star Trek Discovery fans. Discovery, Trekkie, and also Drek, of course. It is an insult, but I do say it because Trekkie was considered an insult once. They need to just own it, like we own Trekkie. Because once upon a time, there were people who were trying to say, no, it's Trekor. I will not be called a Trekkie. I find that, derogative. And people rolled their eyes and said, okay. And those people sounded crazy. So the more you complain about Drekkie, you just sound crazy. Just own it. Just take it like the gays took queer and faggot and all that. And black people took the N-word. Just take Drekkies, go with it. Because we need to distinguish the two groups, because they are very different. You have Star Trek fans who like Discovery, and then you have Discovery fans that like Star Trek. Then you have people who Drekkies only like Discovery, and Star Trek fans only like the original Star Trek. So I'm a Star Trek fan, a purist. I don't like Discovery. And there are Discovery fans who hate Star Trek, and they seem to, because they're so different, they can exist separately, like Star Trek versus Star Wars, which was a whole other thing in the 70s and 80s. It's a similar dynamic, because it's a similar audience difference, because the new Star Trek has been changed so much that it's more like Star Wars and going for that audience, that those are the kind of people who are now fans of Discovery, and they hate Star Trek and Star Trek fans, and they don't mix well. And we have a similar sort of dynamic that we had in the 70s and the 80s, where science fiction was split between Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans. Now Star Trek is split between Discovery fans and original fans. So it's a mess. And I'm not saying that people can't enjoy Discovery and they can't like it. I won't go as far as saying it's a good show, but if they like it, there's nothing wrong with that. But you sort of do that at the expense of Star Trek, and if you're going to say that is Star Trek and it's better than the original and the original's bad, then that is hurting the original Star Trek and its legacy and its ability to be produced in the future. So that's when we have to push back against it and criticise it, because we can't allow that to sort of keep going on. So we have this dynamic now where the Discovery fans are trying to destroy the original Star Trek, and the creators of the Discovery are trying to destroy the original Star Trek for the same sort of reasons. And it's a big, weird mess I never foresaw in my wildest nightmares ever happening. I grew up watching Star Trek. I saw the original series as a kid on TV, and Next Gen, we didn't get Next Gen for years after it came out. I saw it on video before I saw it on TV. And then I saw the videos and the other shows, and when it was on repeat and cable TV and repeated on regular TV, and it's never gone away. It's even being shown now on digital channels. They repeated all 3 seasons of the original Star Trek, I think twice, after the 50th anniversary, and then they're doing Next Gen, and they're doing Enterprise and doing Voyager. They don't do Deep Space Nine because it's not really Star Trek. People like a space station. Even the normies are like, it's a space station. It doesn't go anywhere. I don't blame them. But yeah, I sort of just want to talk about the state of Star Trek, because why? Okay, I said before, why it's not Star Trek. Why isn't it Star Trek? Well, Star Trek was a science fiction TV series. This is science fantasy. Like Star Wars is science fantasy. They're different things. This is a space opera. It's all about heightened emotions and drama and ridiculousness, as opposed to science storytelling, science fiction, science-based storytelling, blah, blah, blah. They're very different. Like Star Wars was a space opera. They're very different things. The original Star Trek was optimistic. It believed in, Gene Roddenberry created, with the help of other people like Gene Coon and everything. It wasn't all just him. I'm not someone who believes that he's just God and no one else existed. I understand all the people that went into the making of that show, but essentially he started the ball rolling, so he gets the credit for it. He created it. Gene Roddenberry created a universe where we have no poverty, we have no money, we have no capitalism, we have people, we've gotten past all our issues, all our illnesses, all our problems, and we're able to just go out and search the universe for other life and share what we've got with other people who are, at the level of understanding it and being able to join the Federation. And the issues always came from outside. The problems always came from outside. It was always about resolving problems and learning and opening hearts, opening minds. And the show wasn't political in the sense that it preached one way or the other. It presented political issues where both people could see both sides, and actually it would encourage them to think and make a decision for themselves from an objective, sort of separate point of view of these current day sort of realities sort of being shown through aliens and situations where we're separate enough that people could actually see them objectively and think about them objectively. This was brilliant. Gene didn't invent it, science fiction did it before, but I think he did it the best. We don't have that now. Discovery, it's all left-wing politics, and I'm left, I'm totally gay, I'm a full-on kink, dirty, gay guy. I do not have any interest in traditional family values. I respect them, but I'm not having kids, I'm not having my own family, so I have no interest in any of that. So I'm full-on with what the worst of the left probably go with, but they're too extreme because they don't seem to want to just have that on their own. They need to seem to destroy everything else around them to have theirs. It's just a huge mess. You have all these gender politics and just politics. It's all about politics. The motivation for the characters, for the stories in Discovery and everything that happens is not character-based. It's based totally on politics and agenda and being seen as not a science fiction show to telling stories and opening minds, but a platform to preach politics. That's not what Star Trek was. So that's the problem with this now. It's not Star Trek. So while I'm glad that the current licensed shows of Star Trek combined with the original Star Trek have gotten them up to 800, and it's something to be proud of on that level, that obviously we're doing well enough. We got to 800 shows, but we are limping along the line, just hemorrhaging fans and credibility along the way. And I just want them to do better. If they just change Discovery, they tried to change it in the second season. They made a few improvements, and then they just went back to what they were doing before and dug their heels in and went even harder on season 3. I think they kind of felt like, well, we're going to have our own Strange New Worlds show that can be more like Star Trek and we can do our thing, which doesn't entirely bother me. Kind of like, I tolerated Deep Space Nine back in the day because I had Next Gen, and then when Next Gen ended, I had Voyager. So I just watched those shows. I did watch it as well, but I was really offended by the war, by all the current politics in the show, and bringing Star Trek down to our level, and Star Trek and Starfleet down to our level, where they had the same internal issues that we do, because apparently that was more realistic, and that's supposedly what those people thought we needed in their vision of Star Trek, which was not Gene Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek or the fans' vision of Star Trek. What their job was to do was to keep producing that Star Trek, not create their own with their own agendas. I hate Stephen Ivan Burr, whatever his name is. I really hate that blue bearded freak. I hate him. Hate him, hate him, hate him. I can't stand him because he literally said, I hated Gene Roddenberry, I hated Next Generation, I wanted to make the complete opposite of that show because it didn't represent like life and today. That's not what Star Trek was supposed to do. It was supposed to give us an escape, a future we could go to that was different, that was better, that we could believe in, so we could look past what we were suffering through and believe things would be better and try and add to that and get to that place instead of just wallowing in today. So there's my bit of a rant, but I'm passionate about Star Trek. It means something to me. It's not just a TV show. And what surprises me the most out of all of this that's happened in the last 3 years is realizing how many people watched Star Trek and didn't realize what it was, didn't realize what was special about it, just watched it because it was on, just because it was a well-produced show and they could just sort of see the quality of the production, and that was enough for them. They didn't distinguish it from the other science fiction shows. So then when they changed it, those people didn't notice and they just went along with the ride because, it's Star Trek, it's still great. And I'm like, what are you watching? Are you watching the same show? Like when I see people like Jessie Gender do videos about Discovery, and I'm like, I'd love to see the show she's watching because it's not what's on TV now. It's not Discovery. Yeah, so I would be happy, like I said, if they just went back to some of the basic things, an optimistic future, actually showing that future instead of just Star Trek now seems to be the story of getting to that future. They're always about, we're a mess and we need to get past these issues. They give a big speech about going on to this great Star Trek future, and then they reset and go back to the same problems and then go to the same thing. At the end is always, we are going to aspire. How about just giving us what we already had, which has already been there? I have no interest in the journey to why do I want to say optimism? The journey to utopia. I want to see utopia existing and live in it. That's what the original Star Trek was. And they've taken that away from us and given us this modern day roadmap to that and saying, we're going to go there. We're going to go there. That's what the problem with the JJ films, where each film was a mess. And then at the end it was like, we're going to boldly go in the next film. And then they'd reset and same issues. And then at the end of the film, we're going to boldly go at the end of this film. And then the next adventure will be, Strange New World, Civilizations. And then they just went back to the same thing pretty much. The third film did try, but it was a bit too late. And Destroying the Enterprise undermined whatever they tried to do with the characters because they killed one of the main characters, the Enterprise. But I'll do a review about that one day. But I've already talked for 12 minutes. I'm surprised I can always manage to talk so much about these things. I always think, I want to talk about that, but what am I going to say? How can I fill even 3 minutes? How am I going to do it? And then next thing I know, it's 12, 13 minutes. I'm still talking. Is anybody listening? I don't know. But yeah, 800, proud of that. Proud for Star Trek in theory, but really worried about where Star Trek's going because the people who are justifying keeping the show running as it is, they would be happy to keep Star Trek going indefinitely like this, and they don't care about the original Star Trek dying. They don't care about taking it back to what it originally was and making it special again. They're happy for it to limp on as long as it can compete with the other generic science fiction shows that really don't get any ratings and don't have any fan following or popularity or longevity, because they don't care if it disappears. As long as they get paid to produce that episode or that season, and they get a contract for another season, they don't care about the legacy. They don't care about whether people watch that show again and again. The amount of fans who've watched the original Star Trek tens, hundreds of times and have watched it again and again, that's why it is on TV 55 years after it was originally produced, because it's so great you can still watch it and people want to keep watching it. These new shows won't have that. So we get producing 800, 900, 1,000 episodes of a show, but we're not maintaining the legacy. So I just want them to get better. I'm happy with the characters and the actors to keep going and doing the shows so long as they become Star Trek. They can't keep just going in this cyclical journey of promising to boldly go and then never doing it because they see Star Trek as the journey to utopia, the improving yourself, as opposed to actually having already done that and then just living that example. That's what Star Trek was, living that example, maintaining it in the face of adversity. That's not what the new Star Trek is. And people who don't get that frustrate the hell out of me. I get frustrated and I have to really calm down and realize they're not deliberately belligerent or evil people. They just don't understand what we Star Trek fans have lost and why it means so much to us and why we're emotional and why we're upset about it. They just think we're a bunch of crazy people because Star Trek was a little bit like a religion for some people. It's a philosophy that people followed in their life and the way they lived their life and the way they looked at their beliefs. That's how important it was to a lot of people for generations. People shared it with their children because it was what they believed. And now we don't have that to pass on. We can pass on the originals, but we don't have the new shows. And then we have the new shows being made, insulting us. And it's like, well, why don't we get Star Trek? Why don't I get to have weekly Star Trek? Once upon a time, 23 weeks of Star Trek would have been the most exciting thing ever. But 23 weeks of Star Trek Discovery and Lower Decks was just depressing. The last couple of videos I've had to push myself to make. It's taken me 5 hours of procrastination just to watch it. And then I had to lay down for an hour or two in the middle of it. It was just so tedious. And then to actually get the video out and actually get it up, it's like, I know only a couple of hundred people are watching it, but if I can save them watching the actual show and suffering what for I'm doing, I'm happy to do it. I've gone from 800 views down to like 150 or so. I don't know what I did. Probably because I'm posting them so late, people are watching other videos. But I'm still doing it. But wow, 16 minutes, I gotta stop talking. But I'm passionate about this. It's a big issue, and 800 episodes is a big deal. I want 900 episodes, but I want them to be good enough that I want to actually watch them, not just criticize them because I'm trying to protest something that's wrong. That's protest something that's hurting Star Trek long term. And the sad thing is, the people who like Discovery, if you gave them Star Trek, they wouldn't know the difference. I know the difference. Star Trek fans know the difference. We're the ones who are suffering and missing something. They wouldn't know the difference anyway. You could give them Star Trek and they'd still think, oh, this is cool. Just like they did before. They didn't recognise what made it unique and significant. They just saw it as another sci-fi show. Most of them are going to do the same thing. So just give us Star Trek. That's all I'm saying. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree. Feel free to ding the bell as well. It does help because I'm trying to grow my channel. Not desperately, but it's kind of it's very difficult unless you have an extreme agenda to push. Like a lot of the Phantom Menace are very right wing, and they get that sort of support. They do really well with their views. Other people on the other side totally. Did I say left or right? They're totally right wing, and the other left, they have their own sort of base that they're sort of pandering to. They do very well. But if you're in the middle, like me, and you're trying to look at both sides and be real, you're not exciting either base, so it's very difficult to actually grow. So I'm trying my best, but for the most part, I'm just talking to just share and express how I'm feeling about stuff, and just making it about that, so that way it doesn't matter how many views it gets. And in the days of Corona and being on quarantine, self-isolation, it also helps just to feel like I'm talking to people. It's kind of therapeutic. But again, I'm waffling on. I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.